Jake was alone on the edge of space. He had been scanning the outer rim of the 442 system for 3 weeks. Nothing interesting had shown up, just empty rocks and frozen moons. The work was boring and repetitive, but Jake needed boring. He needed time to think and forget. His wife had died 5 years ago, a transport accident. She was coming back from visiting her sister when the ship lost power and crashed into the ocean. Jake had been away on a deep space mission. By the time he got the message, was already gone. There was nothing to do but bury what was left. After her death, Jake threw himself into work. He volunteered for the hardest assignments. He asked to go to the farthest places, anything to avoid going home to an empty apartment. Command was happy to send him out. Good pilots were hard to find, and Jake was one of the best. Now he spent most of his time in deep space, far from Earth, far from memories. The scanner beeped. Jake jumped. He had not heard that sound in days. He checked the readout and felt his heart rate increase. There was a distress beacon coming from K4427b, the moon below. The signature was clear and unmistakable. It was a ship. Jake knew what the protocol said. First contact with alien royalty required direct authorization from Earth Command. It required diplomats and Marines and careful planning. It did not require one lone pilot making decisions on his own. Jake should have called it in. He should have reported the beacon and waited for official instructions. Jake did not call it in. Instead, he put on his suit and the shuttle. The moon K4427b was mostly ice and stone. It was cold and empty. Nothing lived there except maybe some bacteria in the deep ice. Jake descended through the thin atmosphere and landed near the distress beacon. The impact crater was easy to spot. The crashed ship was massive. Its hull was torn open. Gas vented from the rupture in slow streams because of the low gravity. Jake moved carefully through the broken metal and ice. His suit lights cut through the darkness. He had to be careful not to slip on the frozen surface. The crash had been violent. The ship had hit the ice shelf at tremendous speed. Pieces of it lay scattered across a wide area. Some of the fragments were still smoking from the impact. He found the main section of the ship. It had split open like a broken egg. Inside, the air was cold and thin. Jake followed the ship's layout to the medical chamber. That was where he would find the survivors. That was where the important people would be kept safe. She was in the largest chamber. He knew immediately that she was important. The chamber was made of clear crystal that caught his light and threw it back in 1,000 colors. The woman inside was tall, almost 7 feet. Her skin was not like human skin. It was smooth and clear like glass, and it caught light from inside her body. Her eyes were closed, but they glowed with a soft blue light even while she slept. There was a name written in flowing script above the chamber. Jake used his suit's translation computer to understand it. Princess Arya of the Third Dynasty. A princess. Of course it was a princess. Jake's luck never worked in his favor. He was about to turn away when he noticed something wrong. The chamber was showing warning lights. Red lights. Multiple red lights. The woman was dying. Jake checked the medical display. It showed complex data in the language. His computer translated the key information. Blood infection, severe. The infection had started 3 days ago. The ship's medical system had tried to fight it with everything available. Nothing had worked. The medical log ended with a simple message. No cure available. Patient will die within hours. All options exhausted. Jake looked at the princess again. She was breathing but barely. Her skin was losing its glow. The color that made her beautiful was fading. She had maybe a few hours left, maybe less. No one was coming to save her. Her crew was probably dead. Her family did not know where she was. She was going to die alone on a frozen moon. Jake knew what he should do. He should leave the chamber and go back to his ship. He should contact Earth Command and tell them about the crash. He should let the diplomats and the military and all the people in charge deal with this. It was not his problem. It was not his responsibility. He was just a pilot. But as he looked at her face, Jake thought about, had the same kind of beauty, the same kind of light inside her that made people want to be close to her, would have wanted someone to help if she was dying, would have wanted someone to try. Jake accessed the medical chamber's controls. The system was advanced, but he understood the basic functions. He found the blood analysis tool. He put his arm in the machine and let it scan his blood chemistry. The computer worked for several minutes. Then it showed the results. Human blood was not the same as blood. The structure was different. The chemistry was different. But there was something about human blood that could work. The proteins in Jake's blood carried information that a body might recognize as useful. The cells had structures that could help fight the infection. It was a long shot. It might make things worse. It might kill her faster. But it was her only chance. Jake found the transfusion equipment. He connected himself to the machine. The needle slid into his vein and he felt the pull as the machine drew his blood. He watched as his red blood moved through clear tubes and entered the princess's body through her arm. The procedure took longer than he expected. He started to feel weak and dizzy. He wanted to stop, but he continued. He gave her as much as he dared. When he finally disconnected, he was exhausted and lightheaded. He sat beside the chamber and waited. The princess did not move for a long time. Jake worried that he had failed, that his blood had not helped, that she was going to die anyway and he had just wasted his own energy for nothing. Then her eyes moved beneath their closed lids. Her fingers twitched. Her breathing deepened. The warning lights on the chamber started to blink yellow instead of red. The infection markers on the display began to drop. Her skin started to glow again and the color returned to her crystalline features. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked directly at Jake and for a moment fear showed on her face. Then something changed. Her expression became confused. Then it became something like wonder. She spoke in a voice like wind through crystal caves. The words came slowly, as if she was learning to speak for the first time. "Human," she said, "you are human." "Yes," Jake said. He was still sitting in the chair beside her chamber. He had no energy to stand. "You were sick, very sick. I gave you my blood. It helped." The princess stared at him for a long time. Her glowing eyes studied every part of his face. Then tears began to run down her cheeks. Her tears were clear like water, but they caught the light and sparkled. "In all the galaxy," she whispered, "in all the worlds and all the people and all the empires, only a human would do this. Only you." Jake did not understand what she meant. He did not know that his simple choice had just set in motion events that would change the future of two civilizations. He only knew that a woman who was supposed to be dead was alive. And somewhere far away in space, alarms were beginning to sound in the palace of the Empire. Everything was about to change, but Jake did not know that yet. He only knew that he had done the right thing. And for the first time in 5 years since Had died, Jake felt like maybe he had done something that mattered. Arya woke up asking questions. She wanted to know everything about Jake, where he came from, why he was alone, why he had helped her, what it meant to be human. Jake sat beside her recovery chamber and answered as best as he could. He had never been good at talking about himself, but Arya made it easy. She listened like every word mattered. "It is not logical," Arya said. She was sitting up now and her skin had returned to its full brightness. The crystalline surface of her body shimmered with healthy light. "Your species is young. Your technology is far below ours. Your governments are weak. Your people fight with each other constantly. And yet you would give your blood to a stranger. You would risk your own health for someone you do not know. In all the databases I have studied about human behavior, this does not make sense." "I guess we do not always make sense," Jake said. "Humans are not always logical. Sometimes we just do things because they are right." Arya closed her eyes and pressed her hands to her temples. When she opened them again, something was wrong with her expression. She looked confused. She looked scared. "What is it?" Jake moved closer, worried that something was going wrong with her healing. "I am seeing things," Arya said. "Images, memories, but they are not my memories. I see water, I see a blue sky. I see you when you were small, you are laughing. A woman is with you, the woman you loved." Arya opened her eyes wide. "I see her face, I see how she died. I feel your pain when you learned she was gone. How did I see this? How do I know these things?" Jake felt his throat close. His wife. Memories he had tried hard to forget were somehow in Arya's mind. It was impossible. It was terrifying. "The transfusion," Arya said, understanding beginning to dawn on her face. "When you gave me your blood, you gave me more than just blood. You gave me pieces of you, your genetic memory, your essence. The connection between us is not just medical. It is something deeper, something that should not be possible." She looked at him with fear and wonder mixed together. In all the history of the nothing like this has ever happened. Our people have existed for 10,000 years. We have received blood from our warriors many times. We have studied alien biology, but never has a transfusion created this kind of connection. I can feel you. I can sense what you are feeling. Can you feel me? Jake sat quietly and paid attention to what was happening inside his body. It was subtle, but now that Arya mentioned it, he could feel something. A presence. Not like another person in the room, more like another person in his own mind. He could feel her fear and her wonder. He could feel her questioning. It was strange and wrong and somehow right at the same time. "Yes," Jake said, "I feel you too." Before either of them could say anything else, Jake's communication system crackled to life. It was Earth Command. The commander's voice sounded panicked. "Captain, we have detected a massive warship entering the system. I repeat, a warship is inbound. They are broadcasting on all frequencies and demanding your location. What is your status? What is happening out there?" Jake and Arya looked at each other. The princess stood up from her recovery chamber. Her skin began to glow brighter. She moved to the communication system with purpose and clarity. "Tell them I am here," Arya commanded. Her voice was no longer weak. It was strong and full of authority. "Tell them that Captain Jake of Earth saved the life of Princess Arya. Tell them that he gave his own blood to save me. Tell them that by doing so, he has brought great honor to the human species." Jake transmitted the message. There was a long silence from Earth Command. Then a different voice came through, one that sounded older and more careful. "Captain, stand by. We are attempting to contact the Empire leadership now. Do not allow the princess to be harmed. Repeat, do not allow her to be harmed. This situation has just become a matter of extreme galactic importance." The warship arrived in orbit 3 hours later. It was enormous. It was easily 10 times the size of the crashed ship. Its hull was made of the same crystalline material as Arya's skin, but it was dark and dangerous looking. Long protrusions extended from its surface. Those were weapons. Jake could tell just by looking at them. A shuttle descended from the warship. It landed carefully on the ice near the crash site. A group of warriors emerged, 12 strong. They wore armor that matched the color of their skin. At the head of the group was a man who could only be a general. His features were sharp and cold. His eyes were hard. His body moved with the confidence of someone who had killed many times. He stopped when he saw Arya standing at the exit of the crashed ship. She was standing without help. Her skin was glowing. She looked alive and strong. The general's expression changed. Shock registered on his face. "My princess," he said. His voice was deep and carried the weight of military command. "You are alive. The readings from your ship showed that death was inevitable. How is this possible?" "General," Arya said, and Jake heard the change in her voice. She was speaking as a princess now, not as a wounded woman. "I live because this human saved my life. Captain Jake gave me his own blood when nothing else could save me. He risked his own health for someone he did not know. He did this without contract or reward. He did this because it was right." General turned his attention to Jake. The human pilot felt his muscles tense, ready for violence. The general was studying him the way a hunter studies prey. Then the general did something unexpected. He placed his hand over his heart and bowed his head. "In all my years of military service," said, and his voice had changed. It was no longer cold. It held respect. "I have never seen such courage, such honor. For this act, Captain Jake of Earth, the Empire will remember your name forever." Behind the general, the 12 warriors all placed their hands over their hearts. They bowed their heads in unison. It was a gesture of deep respect. Jake did not understand how serious this moment was. He did not know that he had just done something that would shake the foundations of galactic politics. Above them, in the vast darkness of space, signals were being sent from the general's warship. Messages were flying across the Empire at faster than light speeds. Every major power center, every military installation, every noble house would soon know what had happened on Moon K4427b. A human had saved the princess of the Third Dynasty. A human had done what no alien had ever done. A human had given his blood without asking for anything in return. News traveled fast, and with that news came enemies. Forces that had waited for thousands of years for an opportunity like this. Forces that could not allow a human to become important to the Empire. But Jake did not know any of this yet. He only knew that he was about to leave the moon. He was about to travel to the heart of an alien empire. He was about to meet an emperor and face political games he did not understand. The connection with Arya would only deepen as they traveled together, and by the time they reached events would already be in motion that neither of them could stop. The connection between Jake and Arya grew stronger every day. At first, it was like having another person's thoughts at the edge of his mind. Then it became like having someone standing next to him at all times. Jake could feel when Arya was afraid. He could feel when she was happy. When she thought of him, he knew it instantly. The sensation was strange at first. It made him uncomfortable, but slowly he began to accept it. Slowly it started to feel normal. They traveled on General's flagship toward Prime. The journey took 5 days. The ship was fast and powerful. The crew treated Jake with respect that bordered on religious reverence. They had heard the story of how he saved the princess. To them, he was something special, something rare. They did not understand that Jake was just a pilot who had made a simple choice. The ship's chief physician was a woman named Saren. Her skin was silver in color, and her eyes held the coldness of scientific observation. She ran countless tests on both Jake and Arya. She took blood samples. She measured their physical responses. She studied their connection with instruments that Jake did not understand. After 3 days of testing, she called them both to her medical laboratory. "The phenomenon is unprecedented," Saren said. She displayed data on a large screen that meant nothing to Jake. "The transfusion created a permanent biological link. Your blood, Captain, has altered the princess's body at a cellular level, and her blood has altered yours as well. You are both changed." Jake tried to understand. How changed? "In ways we are still studying," Saren said. "The princess's cells now carry human genetic material. Human proteins flow through her body. Your cells now carry genetic material. Human DNA now carries information about biology. The two of you are no longer purely separate species. You are something new, something that science has never encountered before." "Will this hurt us?" Arya asked. She was standing close to Jake, and he could feel her concern through the bond. "No," Saren said. "In fact, the changes appear beneficial. The princess's immune system is stronger than before. Her natural, which is approximately 400 years, may be extended further. Captain, your body shows increased cellular regeneration. Your physical healing ability has improved. Your strength is slightly greater. Your intelligence markers show a minor enhancement. This connection may have extended both your lives." After the examination, Jake and Arya went to the observation deck. Prime hung in space before them. It was the most beautiful thing Jake had ever seen. The planet was covered in crystalline formations that glowed with natural light. Massive cities grew directly from the planet's crust. Bioluminescent oceans covered half the surface. The colors were blues and greens and purples that did not exist in Earth's spectrum. "It is my home," Arya said. She stood close enough that Jake could feel the warmth from her crystalline body. the center of the civilization. For 10,000 years, my family has ruled from the imperial palace. We are the strongest power in the known galaxy, but strength can be a burden. It creates enemies who wish to take what we have. It creates people who fear what we might become. Are there people who fear me? Jake asked. Yes, Arya said. There are those who see your presence as a threat. You are proof that they are not alone at the top of the galaxy. You show that humans have value. You show that other species might rise to challenge our power. Some find that idea terrifying. That night, Jake felt a sudden wave of danger pour through the bond. It was so strong that it woke him from sleep. His heart started racing. He could feel Arya's fear. Something was wrong. Something was hunting her. Jake ran through the corridors of the flagship. He did not know where he was going. The bond pulled him forward like an invisible rope. He found himself at Arya's chambers. The door was damaged. It had been forced open. He drew his weapon and entered. 4 warriors were inside, but they were not the regular crew. They wore armor that covered their faces. They did not have the markings of the Imperial Guard. They were attacking Arya, who was defending herself with a metal staff that she had grabbed from beside her bed. Jake did not think. He did not hesitate. He opened fire. The first warrior fell. The second warrior turned toward Jake. That was a mistake. Jake had been trained to fight in low-gravity environments. He had been trained to fight in cramped spaces. He had been trained by the military. These warriors were trained to dominate. They were not trained to fight someone who moved like Jake moved. Jake killed 3 of them. The 4th warrior saw that the battle was lost. He ran toward the window. Before Jake could stop him, the warrior pressed something on his armor. The window exploded outward. The pressure of the ship's internal atmosphere pushed the warrior out into space. He was followed by a spray of blood and debris. Guards came running. They were the real Imperial Guard, and they looked confused. They found Jake standing over the bodies of 3 dead warriors. They found Arya unharmed, holding her staff. They found the remains of the window and the body floating in space outside. General arrived minutes later. He examined the scene carefully. His expression grew darker as he studied the dead warriors. He checked their armor and their weapons. Then he turned to Jake and Arya. "These are soldiers," said, his voice cold with anger. "But not soldiers of the regular army. This is the private guard of Lord. He is a member of the Imperial Council. He has opposed your family for decades, Princess. But this is the first time he has acted so boldly. This is open assassination." "Can you prove it was him?" Arya asked. "Not yet," said, "but his hand is on this deed. I feel it. And now that he has made his move, others will feel bold enough to move as well. You must reach the palace. You must stand before the Imperial Council. You must make your case before the situation becomes worse." Jake felt Arya's fear through the bond, but beneath the fear was something stronger. Beneath the fear was determination. She had been fighting for her life against that infection when Jake found her. She had chosen to come to the palace despite the danger. She would not run now. She would not hide. She would stand before the council and speak the truth. "We will reach the palace," Arya said. Her voice was steady and strong. "And we will show them that the bond between human and is not a weakness. We will show them that it is the future." The flagship increased its speed. The distance to Prime grew smaller, and on the planet below, in the chambers of the Imperial Council, forces were already moving. The news of the assassination attempt had reached them. Questions were being asked. The council was preparing for the arrival of the princess and her human savior. Some members of the council were preparing to welcome them. Others were preparing to destroy them. Everything was moving toward a confrontation that would determine the fate of both human and civilizations. The Imperial Council chamber was massive. The ceiling stretched hundreds of feet overhead. The walls were made of pure crystal that had been polished over 10,000 years. The crystal caught the light from the planet's bioluminescent plants and threw it back in waves of color. At the far end of the chamber sat 13 council members. In the center, on a throne that was higher than all the others, sat Emperor. He was Arya's father. Jake could see the resemblance in Arya's features. The Emperor's skin held the same crystalline quality. His eyes had the same luminescent glow. But where Arya was beautiful, the Emperor was imposing. His age showed in his bearing. He had ruled for 300 years. He had seen civilizations rise and fall. He had made decisions that affected trillions of lives. Emperor looked down at Jake and Arya as they approached the center of the council chamber. His expression was unreadable. "Princess Arya," the Emperor said, his voice carrying a resonance that made Jake's bones vibrate. "You have petitioned for this council to recognize the human species as our equals. You have petitioned for us to form a formal alliance with this young and primitive civilization. You have petitioned for fundamental changes to our relationship with the galaxy. Do you understand the scope of what you are asking?" "I understand, Father," Arya said. She stood with perfect posture. Her skin glowed with confidence. "Captain saved my life when death was certain. He did this without asking for anything in return. He did this because another being was suffering. This is a truth that matters more than any treaty or military advantage." Lord rose from his seat. His skin was dark, the color of obsidian. His eyes were cold and empty. His body was lean and dangerous. Jake recognized the type immediately. Was a killer. He had probably killed many times. "The princess speaks from emotion, not logic," said. His voice was sharp and cutting. "This human is nothing but a curiosity, a genetic accident that has created an impossible connection. To form a permanent alliance with Earth based on the actions of a single human is foolish and dangerous. It shows weakness." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Arya felt it too. Through the bond, he could sense her anger mixing with his own. But she squeezed his hand gently. She was telling him to stay calm. She was telling him that this was not the moment to lose control. "Is it foolish?" Jake stepped forward without being invited to speak. Several of the guards moved, ready to stop him, but Emperor raised his hand and they stepped back. Jake looked directly at the Emperor. He forced himself to speak with confidence, even though his heart was racing. "I am just a human. I am not as strong as you are. I am not as advanced. My species has not conquered star systems or mastered advanced technology, but I can tell you something that I think matters." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "On Earth we have a saying. We say that we judge people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Princess Arya is remarkable, but not because she is an alien or because she is royalty. She is remarkable because when she woke up after I saved her life, the first thing she wanted to know was my name. She did not demand my slavery. She did not demand payment. She just wanted to know who I was." Jake turned to face the full council. "The human species is young. We are still learning. We make terrible mistakes. We hurt each other. We destroy things we should protect. But we are also learning to be better. We are growing. And if the Empire, with all your wisdom and power, could see the potential in humanity, then maybe we could become something greater than either of us could be alone." Silence filled the council chamber. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. He could feel Arya's pride through the bond. He could feel the council members studying him, trying to understand what they were witnessing. Then something happened. A council member named Lyra, whose skin held the color of deep ocean water, rose to her feet. She placed her hand over her heart and bowed her head. "I stand with the princess," Lyra said. "The human speaks truth. Our strength has made us arrogant. We have forgotten that the greatest power is not dominion but the ability to elevate those around us." Another council member rose, then another, and another. Like light moving through crystal, the gesture of support spread around the chamber. More and more council members stood and bowed their heads, but did not move. Instead, he smiled. It was a terrible expression on an alien face. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment. "You are all fools," said, but there was no anger in his voice. There was only cold certainty. "But very well. If you wish to ally with a species, then I will offer you a test." He gestured, and the walls of the council chamber transformed. Star charts appeared, but these were not maps of the known galaxy. These showed a region of space that had been hidden for thousands of years. 500 years ago, said, there were not the strongest power in the galaxy. A species called the Collective nearly destroyed us. They came with weapons and force that we could barely withstand. We survived only by hiding creating false trails and waiting for them to move on. But I have received new information, classified information. They are coming again. They have found the old signals. They know where we are, and they will arrive in 3 months. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Emperor rose from his throne. Council members shouted at each other. The news of they was worse than any assassination attempt. It was worse than any political crisis. His voice cut through the noise. If the humans are truly our equals, then let them prove it. Let them defend Prime alongside our warriors. If they can help us survive the invasion, then I will personally advocate for permanent alliance. If they fail, then at least we will know the truth about human capability. Emperor raised his hand, and silence fell over the chamber. He looked at Jake with an expression that was impossible to read. "It is decided," the Emperor said. "The trial will proceed as Lord has proposed. Captain, you have 3 months to prepare Earth's defense forces. You have access to technology and knowledge. You have access to our finest military minds. The survival of both our civilizations now rests on your shoulders." As Jake and Arya left the council chamber, the princess squeezed his hand. "Has trapped us," she said. "Either you succeed and prove that humans are worthy, or you fail and everything is lost." "Then we do not fail," Jake said. "I need to study your weapon systems. I need to understand I need to think about this differently than anyone has thought about it before. Because I think humanity's strength might not be our technology. It might be that we think like survivors. We think like hunters. We think like a species that has fought to stay alive on a harsh world." Arya's eyes glowed brighter. "You are going to beat them." "We are going to beat them," Jake said. "Together, that is what bonds are for." 3 months to prepare. 3 months before they arrived. 3 months to save 2 civilizations. Jake worked without sleep for 3 months. He studied military records. He analyzed every battle that had fought over the past 1,000 years. He looked for patterns. He looked for weaknesses. He looked for anything that would give humans an advantage in a fight against an enemy that was stronger, faster, and better equipped. The pattern he found was simple. They always won through overwhelming force. They attacked with maximum power and expected their enemies to break. They did not plan for resistance that changed. They did not adapt when their first strategy did not work. They believed in dominance through sheer strength. They believed that the biggest weapon always won the fight. Jake called General to his war room. The walls were covered with star charts and battle diagrams. Months of work covered every surface. "They have a fundamental weakness," Jake said. He pulled up recordings of past battles. "Every engagement follows the same pattern. They attack with full power on the primary front. They expect to crush resistance through numbers and firepower, but they do not plan for anything else." "So what do you propose?" asked. "We let them win," Jake said. "We appear to be losing. We retreat. We make them think they are crushing us. But while they are focused on the main battle, we move our best forces into positions they do not expect. We target their supply lines. We damage their command ships. We strike at the places where they are weakest." Studied the plan. His expression was skeptical. "You propose we deliberately lose battles to win the war?" "Yes," Jake said. "On Earth we have small predators that survive not by being stronger than their prey but by being faster and smarter. We hide. We attack from unexpected angles. We tire our enemies. They expect traditional warfare. They expect their enemy to fight on their terms. We will not give them that choice." The battle began exactly as predicted. They came with 7 massive capital ships and hundreds of fighters. They attacked Prime's outer defensive stations with brutal force. The stations were destroyed. Thousands of defenders died. The forces retreated exactly as Jake had planned. The commander believed he was winning. He believed the planet would be his within days. But Jake's trap was already closing. Human fighters, fast and small, attacked the supply ships. The ships carried fuel and ammunition. When the supplies stopped arriving, the weapons became less effective. Warriors, guided by human tactical coordinators, struck at the command vessels. They hit with precision. They hit the places where they were vulnerable. The commander realized too late that he had been tricked. His communication systems were damaged. His forces were scattered across too much space. The unified attack that had worked before did not work now. Jake's forces were coordinating in ways they did not understand. The humans thought like prey animals that survived through cunning. They fought with the precision of warriors who had trained for this their entire lives. In the final hours of the battle, the commander transmitted a message that would be recorded throughout the galaxy. The message was captured by every military force in known space. It would be studied and analyzed and feared for generations. The humans think like predators they do not follow the rules of civilized warfare. They are dangerous in ways we did not anticipate. We are retreating. Do not engage them again. The ships fled the system. For the first time in 500 years, they would not live in fear of the core war returning. They had won, but the victory belonged to the humans as much as to the Alliance had proven itself. The celebration lasted for 3 days. The streets of the capital city filled with millions of citizens. They chanted Jake's name. They chanted humanity's name. Jake stood beside Arya, and through their bond, he could feel her pride. He could feel her joy. He could feel her certainty that this was the beginning of something new. But the true recognition came at the Imperial Council. Emperor rose from his throne. Jake was standing in the center of the council chamber, with Arya beside him. Generals stood at attention. The warriors who had fought in the battle stood in lines behind them. "Captain Jake of Earth," the Emperor said, and his voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of history. "You have saved the civilization. You have proven that the human species possesses gifts that the greater galaxy desperately needs. You have shown that humans think in ways that other species cannot match. I hereby announce the formal recognition of Earth as an independent and equal civilization within the galactic community. The Empire extends its hand in eternal alliance with humanity." The council erupted in agreement. Even Lord bowed his head, acknowledging that he had been proven wrong. The decision was unanimous. Earth was no longer a primitive species waiting to be discovered. Earth was an equal in the eyes of the. But as the celebrations continued around him, Jake felt something change. It came through his bond with Arya, a disturbance, a shadow. Something was wrong. Jake led Arya to a private chamber. She was troubled. He could feel her mind working, searching through information she had recently accessed. "There is something the council did not tell you," Arya said quietly. "Something that only the highest levels of our government know. When I received your blood, it changed my genetic structure in ways that scientists are only now beginning to understand. It has allowed us to access ancient records in our biological databases, records that have been sealed for millions of years." "What kind of records?" Jake asked. "Records of a species," Arya said. "A species that walked this galaxy billions of years ago. A species that seeded advanced civilizations before their own extinction. They were seeded by this ancient species. And now scientists believe that humans were also seeded by them. That means humans and share a common origin. We are connected by bloodlines that go back further than either of our recorded histories." Jake felt the implications settle over him like a heavy blanket. If others learn this, Arya finished, there are ancient enemies in this galaxy who will not rest until one of our species is erased. The ancient seeding happened for a reason. There was a war back then, a war so destructive that it nearly ended all life in the galaxy. The victors of that war may still have descendants. They may still be looking for the civilizations that were seeded by their enemies. And now that humans are united, we are a target. Jake pulled Arya close. He could feel the warmth of her crystalline body against his human flesh. The bond between them pulsed with a connection that was unlike anything in the history of the galaxy. "Then we face it together," Jake said. "That is what bonds are for, to face the future whatever it brings, to stand beside each other when the darkness comes, to believe in each other when nothing else makes sense." Above them the celebrations continued. The cities of Prime glowed with joy. In the darkness of space, human ships and ships hung side by side. A new alliance had been formed. A new era had begun. But in the vast darkness between the stars, ancient forces were beginning to move. Enemies that had waited for millions of years were beginning to search. The blood bond between a human and an alien princess had opened doors that had been sealed since the beginning of time. Doors that ancient enemies did not want opened. Jake had given his blood to save a dying alien princess. In doing so, he had changed the future. He had created a connection that transcended species and biology. He had proven that compassion was stronger than conquest. He had proven that a single human could matter to an entire galaxy. But the true story was only just beginning. The real battle lay ahead, and somewhere in the darkness, something ancient and terrible was beginning to wake.